first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining here with us every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific. We start off. We are live streaming on our apps, on our website, and of course on social media. So wherever you're joining, thanks for being here. Right now, though, we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence, something that's brought up pretty much everywhere. No matter where you are, you cannot escape an AI conversation about how it's even being utilized, how it's being regulated. That's what we're going to be discussing today, at least in part. What part of the reason is because Governor Kotek today announced that we are establishing an Oregon State Government AI Advisory Council. So that is going to be to develop recommendations to leverage the benefits of artificial intelligence while honoring transparency, privacy, and equity. What does that mean? We'll have to figure out exactly how that's going to be utilized, but it's certainly a trend when it comes to governments and industries in regulating AI. That's something that we're seeing across the board. We're going to talk about that and more right now with our expert, who I am very glad to have on here, Nouvelle Gonzalo from the Gonzalo Law Group. Thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Greg. Excited to talk with you a little bit more about this.
Yeah, this is such a huge topic that covers so many different areas, and we're going to try to narrow it down just a little bit. And I know your expertise expands across the board on it. But looking at it from this standpoint, so just for an example, since this just came out today, neither one of us know exactly everything that's going to be going on with this AI Advisory Council, but the announcement in general seems to be kind of a trend across governmental agencies, or at least as far as attempting to regulate AI. How important do you think it is that governments step in to regulate or at least advise when it comes to artificial intelligence?
Excellent question. And I'm so glad you asked it, Greg, because when we're looking at things like, so we first have had the Frontier Model Forum, right? So that's for industry leaders with Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, and OpenAI. So they came together to form this model forum that sets the rules and regulations. But the a little bit scary thing about this is that is the industry who benefits the most setting the rules. And so we want to see things like government starting to step in to balance that out. So not just the people who are benefiting, but also the people who are going to be regulators. So the fact that the governor of Oregon came out with this information today and this new mandate is actually really great. We should and want to see this, and we want to see that starting to happen across the different states. Now, it's likely, though, I think that we'll see federal regulators look at this and say, you know what, we need to get in on this so that the separate states aren't, just setting the rules, because you're looking at 50 different states of different rules that could be rolled out. So it would behoove industry and the consumer to have a across the board set of regulations, but working in conjunction with industry. So
it seems, it's such a complicated issue because the technology is rolling out so fast, changes so quick, and there's so many different players in the game. Are there any kind of actual regulatory commissions or councils or anything even out there right now?
Well, they're really still coming into play. The Frontier Model Forum, from the industry perspective, yeah, that has really taken the lead right now. And those are the major players that are in the industry, but they do and are inviting collaboration from competitors. Because even when I saw that, I said, okay, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI, hello, where's Apple? So, they're inviting competitors to come in and join that. So that would be great. So we can have some diversity and also bring in some government regulators as well. Equivalent to if we looked at like the FDA and we only had Tyson Foods regulating, or, the major food companies doing it all themselves, but rather we want to open it up, see some more government regulation to balance that out.
What are some of the important factors that these kind of commissions and regulatory agencies should take into when they're considering AI stipulations?
Sure. So things that are going to be important are things like safety, accuracy of information. And when I say safety, I'm talking also about privacy concerns and considerations. So there are times when the history of, whether it's your smartwatch that is, saving information on your location, or, whatever it might be, the privacy of that information is important and how it's governed, because it also is including medical information. How long are you sleeping? Are you waking up during the night? Are there any irregular patterns? So that can include health information, which is normally protected by HIPAA. And so when that starts to come into play, we want to look at, okay, well, we need to protect that. And then also we want to make sure that they're regulating accuracy. There have been cases where AI is producing information that just isn't true. There was a lawyer in New York that had used AI in his briefs to generate a brief, and it had cited fake cases, it cited fake law, and then he submitted that to the court, and he's facing sanctions, disbarment, and heavy legal issues. There was Sports Illustrated that came out with using fake AI articles that were allegedly, I should say, let me be precise with my words, allegedly fake articles that were generated by AI and not a person, that had fake author profiles. So things like that, we need to be regulating. How is it being used accurately? We need to be regulating how is it used to keep information safe. And also, I want to mention, we've been seeing AI for a long time now. This is not just brand new, even though people are talking about it more. We started seeing artificial intelligence way back when we started seeing the Nest doorbells, the Ring doorbells, and the Nest security systems that are voice activated, the Alexas, the Siris, all of this. And so we started seeing progression over time. And now we're starting to see it more with things like ChatGPT and other sources. So being able to keep that information accurate, private information safe and private, healthcare related information protected as needed. And then also just making sure that we know, okay, well, AI created this, but who owns it? And that's been a huge question in the legal space and in copyright, trying to figure out who owns what's being created if you co-create it with the machine. Because right now, copyright only covers works that are created by a human. It does not cover works created by a machine. So when you have that happening, who owns it? And then who has the responsibility to protect it? So it's interesting.
Well, very interesting. I mean, all of those things you just mentioned, and when it comes to the copyright side, because the AI is trained off of works that most likely humans created. So if it's reproducing something similar, that is just a lot to try to figure out. And I would imagine, coming from your end too, on the legal side of things, it's got to be some weird waters to walk through, just to try to figure out how you do that, who has the rights, and determine where you can go from there.
Sure. I would say probably the most difficult thing is that it's frustrating. You want to know, a clear-cut law so that we know how to protect our clients. I practice U.S. and international corporate law. A large part of that is intellectual property. So we want to know how to protect consumers and protect the companies and clients that we serve. And if the law is only set up to protect what a human creates, then that makes it difficult if there's co-creation, if the human created it in conjunction with a machine. But courts are just now starting to have to face this issue more. We even saw this with the Hollywood strikes, when writers were going on strikes because there were motion houses and streaming services that were using AI to generate scripts, to generate TV and movie proposals. And they said, hey, wait a second, you took my script and you're using that to create 15, variations of it? No way. So we need these regulations that are going to be put together by these forums like the Frontier Model Forum, like what's happening in Oregon and so forth, so that we can put protections on that and protect the writers and protect the creatives, really.
How far out do you think we are from getting any actual regulation or even laws passed when it comes to copyright protection from AI?
I would say we are getting close. Now, I will say law is one that moves a little bit slower than technology sometimes, but because of the push and the pressure that the courts are receiving right now, and because of the uproar that's happening, we're going to be forced in the legal community to respond to this. And so, with that, I would not be surprised within the next 6 to 12 months if we start seeing judge made law that is coming out with answers to this. If we start seeing opinions from the U.S. Copyright Office that speaks to this, because there is a lot of public comment going on about this. And the more that consumers push and creatives push and businesses push for more clarity on this, the more the government's going to have to respond. And also, when the government sees private industry starting to regulate an area that they want to be a part of, we're going to probably see government also start moving in that direction too.
That's a really interesting perspective there. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. The government's going to want to be getting into that once they see that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something else that you mentioned, you talking about AI being utilized for other things as well. And I did want to talk about some of the positives of AI, or at least, seemingly positives, and AI being used in research in particular, both for environmental reasons, for medical reasons. How important do you think AI is when it comes to medical research?
Sure. So we're seeing this across the board in health sciences. I mean, it's not only medical research, but we're seeing it in genomics. We're seeing it in pattern recognition for disease detection. AI is being able to be used with the algorithms to detect diseases, to find cancers. I mean, it's mind-boggling, Greg, when I look at all of these different uses that are starting to develop and become more advanced. But it's very important. And that's why, again, we want to see that regulation happen. Because when you look at the variety of uses, this is spanning our whole life, from health sciences to entertainment to business to consumer use to in-home use and all of that. So absolutely, it is very important. Seeing it in pattern recognition, like I said, in genomes, predictive analysis. So it's very good.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things can happen from that. But as you mentioned, AI really is involved in everything, and that's not going to change. That's not going to go away. It's only going to advance. So figuring out how to manage that, regulate it, advise on it, really, really important issues then that need to be figured out.
Absolutely. And when we look at the healthcare side in particular, because we do a lot of healthcare corporate law as part of our practice. And when we look at the healthcare applications and uses of AI, whether it's through telehealth or through detection and so forth, the biggest concern that comes into play is HIPAA. And that is the federal law that protects healthcare information. And so any provider that qualifies for having to be HIPAA compliant, that's hospitals, that's clinics, anyone that's transmitting patient information, we want to make sure that it's compliant. And so that is adding an additional layer of a bit of complexity for the use when it comes to health sciences and in medical research, genomics, and so forth, because we have to make sure that that information stays protected. Right now, it can feel a little bit like the wild, wild west when it comes to AI, because it's happening and growing so fast. But thankfully, we do have such federal legislation like HIPAA that's in place to protect for those reasons. So.
Well, it's fascinating and obviously such a rapidly changing subject and so many things to learn. And you're at the forefront of this when it comes to especially to the legal side of this, of figuring out what these rules are going to be, how we're going to be utilizing AI. So I really appreciate your input in joining us today. Anything else you want to let people know about?
Yeah, I would just simply say, it is not something to be afraid of. Don't be afraid of it. Let's learn how to work with it, live with it. You know, when we look at almost over 70% of businesses are using AI in the company, in their companies, small, medium, and large, in some way, shape, or form. We want to make sure we're encouraging our youth and schools that are going to school and learning to learn how to work with this as a tool, not hide it from them and say, no, you cannot use, Chat GPT, or you cannot use this. Let's teach our youth and educate them how to use it skillfully so it doesn't dampen their creativity, it doesn't stunt their intellectual development, but rather enhance it. I often liken it to like a calculator. The calculator is here to help us, but you still have to show your work. So you still want to know how to do those things. And then it's a lot of fun. I used Chat GPT to plan a 17-day trip to Italy next year. So it was super helpful, from putting everything in a chart to hotels and transport and airlines and all that good stuff. So it's an awesome use.
So yeah, there are good things out there, good ways to utilize it for sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today. I really appreciate your time and expertise and information on this. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Greg. It was my pleasure. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. And for everybody watching, so that is a really informative segment right there, just learning about AI. As I mentioned, there's so many topics in there that we just touched on each one of those, and it's something that's going to be a part of our lives going forward. So it's important to learn about it, understand it, and also have some regulation come in, whether that's, like she was mentioning, from the industry side, from the government side, with what Governor Kotek announced today. So a lot of different organizations hopefully working together to figure out some of these big issues that will come up with artificial intelligence. We have a lot more coming up here on today's show. So this live stream starts here at 1 p.m. every weekday. Coming up here, I'll have some more news from around the world that we're going to be sharing. But at 1:30, I'm going to be talking to the Portland Center Stage about a new performance that's going to be there throughout December, throughout the rest of this month, actually, and December, for a performance of Dracula, but a different kind of performance. It's a different spin on Bram Stoker's Dracula. So we're going to be talking about that and lots more. So if you're watching on social media, you'll see this live stream end. If you're watching on the website and apps, we will continue on. Otherwise, I will talk to all of you at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for joining. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox.